different academic journals, right? So the time that teachers spend with students is only a part of their job at universities. Research is a big part. Right, so as I said, the smog and just parts of the job in all of those places from the years from 2005 to 2014 weren't quite satisfying, so I ended up here, working in King Faisal University in Haifa, Saudi Arabia, right? Where my wife likes to cook Thai food still, right? We like to sightsee like everybody else, and I finished up, again, another online degree in mathematics, right? I finished the degree in mathematics using some of my credits from Michigan Technological University, right? So that's about me. Back to schools in the United States. How many of you might go for an exchange year or month? How many of you want to go to school in the US or Canada or New Zealand or UK or Australia? High school or college?
High school. Next month I will go to college.
Next, okay, high school. You're in high school. Next year you go to college. Yeah?
Canada.
You want to go to Canada for a high school year or for college? College, yeah. So let's start with. I'll give some information about high schools, and then a little bit more information about how you get into college. And it'll be very similar from the United States to Canada. Okay? I don't have too much technical information on Canada because I'm not from Canada, and because I kind of rely upon the idea that the US and Canada are very, very similar, because in many regards they're very, very similar. Okay? So this is a picture of, these are pictures of high schools and other schools from my district back home. This is the high school I went to. This was my elementary school. This is my middle school. This is a private girls' school, and this is the other high school in the district. Most students will spend a lot of time on these things when they're young, right? Bus is free to and from school. They'll take you up near your house. You'll have to walk out to the bus stop, and they'll take you to school.
Or bicycle. Or bicycle.
You can take a bicycle, but sometimes the school is maybe 10 kilometers away. It's quite far, you know? So a bus is always nice, or your parents can take you.
For free?
For free, yeah. School buses are for free. That's by federal law. The government of the entire country has decided that all school busing is free. Because some students would not be able to go to school if they didn't have a bus. Right? So in order to get all students to school, we have busing. So students might start as early as age 2. When did you guys first go to school?
7.
7. And so you started in elementary school. Some students might start when they're this big, right? Like at Disney English, I literally worked with 2-year-olds. I was teaching English to 2-year-olds. That was my youngest group, right, in China. And they'll go through this preschool until age 5, yeah. It's pretty funny. Then they'll start elementary school, kindergarten through 5th grade. That's ages about 5 through 10. Next, middle school, grades 6 to 8, right, ages 10 to 13. And finally, high school, grades 9 to 12, age 13 to 18. Do you guys split up into 3 schools, or do you have 2?
Yeah, 3.
You do 3. So you do this middle school, like 6, 7, 8?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, same as us. And that's when all of our bodies are changing, so it's kind of a special time in kids' lives anyway. It's not been separated. In all schools, whether we're this big or your age, in college, wherever, inclusion is becoming more and more important. Diversity is a word that you'll hear, right? Not just integration, which is having a group that's different, right? A group that's different among a group that's all the same, but actual inclusion, where we have a group that's quite different, right? So we'll have black kids and white kids and Asian kids and Indian kids and Arabs and other different people, along with people with learning disabilities, people with physical disabilities. You see a person in a wheelchair there, and they'll all go to the same school, right? They'll be split up by ability in classes, but they'll all go together in the same school, right? We have, by law, by federal law, it's the country itself, and by state law, we mandate or require that all children can learn, right? Whether they're handicapped, whether they're good students or bad students, whether they have a learning disability, whether they're deaf or blind, right, or any other kind of disability, that they can still go to school. That's a very important part of growing up in American school, so we have a strong legal system that tries to get everybody to learn. There are 2 main types of schools that you'll see. Whether private and public, same as here, right? You get private and public high schools, private and public universities. Same thing. In your in public schools in the U.S., you'll see things much like this, boys and girls of many different colors going to school together. We don't have any type of uniforms when compared to these folks who are from private school. They have uniforms, right? You guys all wear thobes to high school, yeah? That's the school dress code, right? When you go to university, you might not have a dress code, right? You can wear something more like this, where many people still wear the thobe at King Faisal University, but you don't have to, right? Similarly, you can dress in a suit and tie. You can dress like this going to public school, or you can dress in shorts. There is a dress code for girls. You can't show certain parts of your body. For boys, same thing. But generally speaking, it's almost anything you want to wear, right? The main difference between public and private high school depends on the district the public school is in, right? If you are in a poor district, there's not as much money coming from taxes, from property taxes. Anybody who owns a house in a city pays the government some money. It's called tax. That tax goes to schools, among other things. If your city is poor and people don't pay taxes, or the taxes are very, very low, or there's not a lot of houses, then the school doesn't get as much money, so it might be poorer. In the case where your city is richer, you probably have a better high school, because as we know, the more money you pay to teachers and for school technology and things, the better school will be. On the other hand, private school gets money from parents, right?
Of course.
Right, and all the parents have enough money to send their kids to private schools, right? So they're usually high quality. In a wealthier district, in the suburbs, the public school is as good as the private school. But in the inner city or in a poor rural district, the public school is probably not as good as a private school. That doesn't mean there aren't good students at public school and bad students at private school. Of course there are, right? As I said, co-ed means boys and girls are going together, and integrated means many different colors going together. At the private schools, same thing, co-ed and integrated, but it depends on money. If your parents don't have money, you can't go to school, right? Also, I'm not sure if you guys are interested or not, most private schools in the United States are run by Catholics or some Catholic organization like the Jesuits, whereas public schools are not religiously affiliated, and we'll talk about this. I went to public schools. I went to public high school, public elementary, and public university. I was lucky enough to be in a wealthier district, so our public schools are really quite good. There aren't any private schools anywhere near my house because all the public schools are quite good. As I said, I was lucky enough to be born into a good district. Here's your sample schedule for a 9th grader in an American high school. You'll start school about 7:30, and you'll finish school about 2:10. Or you might start at 7:45, finish at 2:35, something like that. And then after school, there are a lot of sports, which I'll talk about again in a moment. This is something our schools have been moving toward, block scheduling, where we'll have a week 1 and a week 2. On week 1, Monday, you have biology. You got biology Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But in week 2, you have it Tuesday, Thursday. And then algebra switches. You've got Tuesday, Thursday first week, but you got it Monday, Wednesday, Friday second week.
Change about the weeks?
Yeah, so you'll have 1 week this way, and then the next week this way, and then you go back to week 1. No, you go back to week 1 on this schedule. Right, so there are a lot of requirements if you want to graduate and if you want to go to university. You'll generally need math every year if you want to go to a good university. You'll need to take courses like history, English, some sort of science, physical education, maybe technology, language. I had Japanese. Almost every school has Spanish and German and French. Spanish is by far the most common language. And I'll talk about that again in a moment. Maybe the most important part of general student life in high school, sports. For many students, that's the only thing they care about. It's always something that everybody can enjoy, though. Boys and girls play many different kinds of sports, right? They play on separate teams generally. Sometimes you'll see a girl on the boys' team for certain sports if the girls don't have it. It's not necessarily against the rules. It's certainly not against the law, right? But generally speaking, it's all boys and all girls, and they separate, right? That's for fairness, right? We have American football, soccer, volleyball, basketball, hockey, lacrosse, track and field, baseball, and wrestling for boys, and you can see some of them in their uniforms here. For girls, among other things, softball, cheer, soccer, volleyball, swimming, field hockey, hockey sometimes, basketball, track and field. And as you can see, the uniforms are tailored in order to improve sports performance. They're not necessarily adhering to any sort of dress code. Okay, sports are extremely important as well as clubs. We've got so many different kinds of clubs. Clubs, things that students do together. Maybe you're learning and using American Sign Language. Maybe you're learning chess and playing chess with each other. Maybe you're talking about the environment. Maybe it's debate club. Maybe it's Spanish club, or German club, or history club. There's math club, right? Many different kinds of clubs. Photography. You could sing and dance, right? You can do plays. These are all things that you do after school instead of sports. And these things all look good on your student resume, meaning the things that you would send to the university in order to apply for entrance. Right, schools also collect data. Schools and district and university and governments also collect a lot of different kinds of data. Data to assess you as a student, data to assess the teachers, data to assess the school and its administration, test scores, right? How well are the students achieving? How well are the students doing in comparison to state, local, and national other data, right? Looking at all sorts of different things. I'll just keep going on this one. You guys can come back and look at this PPT later online. Right, if you wanted to go to a university in the U.S., here's the important thing, right? You'll have to pass, or you have to take a couple of tests, or at least one test. You have to do pretty well on these tests, right? And Mr. Dan Bond back there will talk about these types of enrollment procedures for New Zealand and other countries later. For the United States, generally you're going to take the ACT. You might also take the SAT. This has become the #1 test to take, ACT. #2 is now SAT, although this used to be the top test. The SAT is what's called norm referenced, right? If we have 100 students, then the best student gets the highest score on the SAT, excuse me. And the worst student gets the lowest score, right? And each student